Welcome everyone to an all-new Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid, and with us today we have Nicholas Perdomo III from, obviously, Perdomo Cigars. So how are you doing, Nicholas?
I'm doing great, Antoine. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for having me on Deep Cuts Live.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, I was going through my Rolodex of people that haven't been on yet, and I was like, let me try. Let's see if Nicholas wants to come on, and you were gracious enough to accept. So, like I said, I'm excited to have you on and talk all things Perdomo. Whenever someone's asking me a question about like what cigars do I like, I usually tell them like the Perdomo Lot 23 is one of those easy ones that I can
Sure.
easily revisit after I've had it a couple times now, but that's probably one of my favorite ones that you all do. But
Thank you.
can't really go wrong. I feel like with Perdomo. So whenever you all, I have a whole basically like humidor bag of Perdomo that I save for like special occasions. And I've spoken through them slowly. So um,
Thank you, Antoine.
big fan of your family and what you all are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're getting a lot of stuff done. And I'm here in Nicaragua, here in our factory. So just working on a lot of stuff right now. We got a lot of projects that we're working on. We're about to roll out a new project coming at the end of this month in July, starting in the beginning of August. It's called our Perdomo Challenge. It's a 6-pack sampler, and basically what we're doing is it's 10th anniversary, all 3 wrappers of Perdomo Habano. And what makes it very unique and why we call it the challenge is we want people to smoke them side by side. Both brands are 54 ring gauges. Both brands utilize 3 wrappers, Connecticut, Sun-Grown, Maduro. Both brands are 6-year age tobacco. So one of the biggest questions we get in those brands are, what's the difference? And the difference is really in the fillers. Where 10th anniversary uses more tobaccos from Jalapa, sweeter, more aromatic, versus Perdomo Habano, which uses a little bit more tobaccos from Esteli, warmer, richer type of deeper, bolder type of flavors that you get. And what's cool is on the front of the box, we have this QR code, and it takes you to a rating platform because we want to hear your feedback. And so you're part of the tasting, and it gives us the insight as well too. So in terms of what we're doing and what we could do better and so forth. So we want to stay engaged as much as possible with the consumer. Perdomo Legacy Father and Son, it's going to be coming out in September. So just finishing the final touches with production and things like that, and actually packaging to make sure that everything's set and ready to go. Then we have some other stuff that we're going to be doing for the regular Perdomo Legacy line, and then, believe it or not, projects for 2027 and 2028. So there's always a lot of stuff going on here in Nicaragua.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to skip ahead too far, but I do want to say that with like you said, with all these projects that you're working on, like what's your favorite part of the process?
I would say in terms of believe it or not, I love the packaging. I love when we work on new packaging and working with some of the greatest printers, and really out of Holland, a company called Vrydag. I
Mhm.
love working and putting. It's like putting the bow on the gift, but really, I love the blending aspect of it. There's so many parts to it. Perdomo Legacy took me many years. Took me almost 4.5 years to come out with, and we came out with it last year in 2025 in honor of my dad's 60th birthday. And then working Perdomo Legacy Father and Son, and just being really just involved, working with our team, working with the rollers, working the tables, working the materials, the tobaccos, and just making sure everything's done properly, sorting and selecting all the different things. So there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of answers to your question, but I truly love everything, to be honest with you. Just the planning, the organizational side behind it, and just the execution.
It must be like a big relief or excitement, almost like Christmas Day when you finally like you're ready to present this new project at either a store, like I know you all got do a lot with 2 guys, but whether it's that or at a trade show when everything is ready and you're like, hopefully everyone loves it as much as I do. It's like,
Yeah, it's a big thing, the whole thing is, and when I smoke our cigars, or when our people are smoking our cigars, the whole thing is that it has our last name on it. So there is a pressure, and I think it's a really good pressure, and we're prepared. So I never feel anxious or anything like that in terms of, prior to release, because I know that whenever I'm prepared, I'm ready to go. And but I do hope, and I pray, that our consumers, our retailers, enjoy the cigars and have the faith and confidence, really, to push the brand. So there's a lot behind it too. To your point, I'd love, in a perfect world, for everybody to love everything, of course.
So I think this has been great so far. Obviously, do want to get to an icebreaker before we get into
Sure.
dive into more of the Perdomo stuff. For you, I know how close you are with your father, so I
Yeah.
thought this might be a fun icebreaker question. But if your father had 3 words to describe you, what 3 words would he probably do you think he would use?
I think my dad, and because I've heard it come out of his mouth, not that I'm putting anything, for myself, but I would say noble, trustworthy, and honest. I think those. I mean, I know they're, it just, I guess, good heart. That's really, you know. I'm different from my dad. My dad's very A type. I'm a little bit more reserved, even though I love people. I just, our personalities are very different. But I would say, I'm kind of like steady Eddie. I stay in my lane. I do what I need to do, and I try to be as noble as possible. But I would say those would probably be noble, trustworthy, and loving. I would say probably the big three.
Well, knowing your parents, I think that's how they would be happy that you relate and how you would describe yourself or think that they would describe you. So,
I
um,
appreciate that.
so I do want to get into like Perdomo for me is such a unique cigar company. It's not like others out there. I mean, like this industry is filled with different size companies, different companies that approach it, but you all like really are like this family vibe. Like when you're at the trade show, you see it like everyone that works with Perdomo, whether they're actual family or not, it feels like the family vibe. And when you
Sure.
visit the office, it's the same kind of thing. And so just give us a little insight into, for those people who for some reason don't know much about Perdomo, like tell us like what is Perdomo? Like who is Perdomo? What is Perdomo? Like what are you all about in terms of family and also business?
Sure. I mean, I think you laid it out perfectly for me. I think we're a family company, and I think the biggest thing is that, from my parents to myself, and what they've taught me is, never forget where you came from. This beautiful business, and this large, 88,000-foot facility that I'm sitting in here in Nicaragua. My dad didn't start with that. My dad started out of a garage. So we remember where we come from. And so we're a big company. We're one of the largest companies, premium cigar companies in the world today. But we have a small feel, which I love. And that's something I hope and pray that we never lose. We're grateful for what we have. We're never content, because we always want more, and we want more necessarily for our consumers. We want more for our retail partners. We want to give them the best possible so that they can sell or buy and be confident in what they purchase or what they sell. But in terms of our family, we're very tight. We're very, very tight. I mean, we have dinner, every week. We work together every day. We do everything together, and so it's one of those things that it's one of the greatest blessings, to be able to have that. But in terms of a company, I think it makes us stronger, because there's that aspect that you really never want to let your parents down, and I think vice versa, your parents never want to let you down either. So we always have in the back of our mind, always pushing each other, but always trying to do the best for each other. And so I think at the end of the day, it leads to success, and trying to do the right thing, being honest, and doing everything you possibly humanly can to provide the best product possible. That's what we're driven by. We're driven by our consumers. We're driven by our retailers, and we want to deliver the best. But I think when you look at our industry, there's so many different segments. You see large companies, boutique companies, and I think, to me, to be honest with you, Antoine, I feel like I am a boutique company. I think a family business, a family company, in a large scale, there's no doubt. But we do everything. We're vertically integrated. We do everything from seed to box. And I think there's a boutique factor to us. and in terms of being vertically and in control of our brand and in control of our tobacco, in control of every single process. And so I think when you look at the segments, there's almost this division. But I think for us personally, I think that family feel, I think we connect with people. And I think I'm sure we're going to get into it, but with Perdomo Legacy, I think it's a brand that really touched a lot of people. Where most cigar smokers have started smoking cigars because of their dad or because of their grandfather, and there's this feel. And I think we connect specifically with that brand, for example, amongst our other brands. But I think this, in the last year and a half, going on almost 2 years, I think we've really connected well and shown who we are as a family. And we have so much more to go.
At what point in your life did you think, or did you decide on that, yes, you were going to be part of this business? Because I know that everyone has, I'm sure there was some pressure on you a little bit to like join the business if, but there's wiggle room. Like if you said that your passion was over here, I'm sure that your parents would have said, okay, but it would be nice if you, kept up the
Sure.
business. So at what point did you decide and what was behind that decision?
Well, I would say, to be honest with you, my whole life growing up in the business, my dad started in August of 92. I was born in October of 92. So I literally grew up this business. I always say the business and we've grown up together. And
Hmm.
so it's always been a part of my life. And so I remember being in first grade, my first grade, Mrs. Rodriguez. I remember she was asking all the kids, "What do you want to be, Johnny, when you grow up? What do you want to be, Susie? What do you want to be?" And everybody, I want to be a baseball player, doctor, lawyer, whatever. Mr. Perdomo, what would you like to be? And I remember saying, I want to be a cigar maker at 6 years old. And so, everybody looked at me with like I had three eyes, and but it's always something I've always wanted to do. I can honestly tell you, Antoine, that I've never personally given myself an alternative career option. I've never had a backup plan, in all honesty, in my life. This is the one and only thing I want to do. So I think I've been very good at it.
Hmm.
Having the tutelage from my dad, our vice president, Arthur Kemper, our director of operations, Nelson Cuba, really great people. But I think they invested in me not just because I'm the owner's son, but because of how much I want this and how badly I've wanted to be a part of this. And I've been, pushing myself through, trying to move and trying to do things, for the betterment of our company. I think I've earned some respect for it, and I just have so much love for this business. This is my one and only job that I've ever had. I've been with full time with the company 12 years now, and I'm just so blessed. But I've always wanted to do this. I've never given myself another thought or another opportunity to do something else in my life.
You've been in this business a long time, and is there any pressure on you being like that next generation of this very well-known family, like to carry on, as you said, the legacy, or to put your own spin on things or whatever? Like, what's that pressure like? Because I can imagine it sometimes can be a little bit much.
Sure. I mean, to be honest with you, being around it my whole life, coming here to Nicaragua now for the last 28 years, it's my 28th year coming to Nicaragua since I was a little kid when I used to come and visit my grandfather when he ran our factories when we first started. And, to be honest with you, I really don't feel necessarily the pressure because I feel like I've been so well prepared and, having the tutelage, but also really practicing, and it's almost treating it like school where I study everything and I check and I double check, all the things that I've studied to make sure I know what I'm doing, but also taking my own approach and things too, because I've been around it my whole life. There's certain things and everything I do comes from here. It comes from my
Hmm.
heart because this is a business that you have to use your heart, and you have to use this too, of course, but you lead with your heart. And that's really where the magic really happens.
And this is also a very relationship driven business. And I know that people probably hear that a lot, but more
Yes.
so in the cigar industry, it's definitely relationship driven, and you have to maintain. that relationship and put work into that relationship. So like,
100%.
like, can you talk about that part of the business a little bit? Because I know that a lot of people hear about the cigar industry and they just think it's, like any other thing, like you all just roll cigars and just bring
Sure.
it out. But
No, it's a
there's a
lot more
whole
than
other part of it. Like after, if you don't have that relationship part down pat, then you can't sell your cigars, and your brand won't grow and
yeah,
scale.
100%. Listen, I've been again, I've been in this business my whole life. Incredible retailers like David Garofalo or Jeff Borshowitz of Corona Cigar, and many others. To this day, I'm 33, going on 34 years old. I still call Dave Garofalo Mr. Dave. I still call Jeff Borshowitz Mr. Jeff because I've known him my whole life, and they're my elders, and it's just a respect factor, but it's everything. The relationships are everything. And the relationships with your consumers, the relationships with your retailers, and having the bonds is truly everything. And even, on this side, being here in Nicaragua, I mean, we have rollers and bunchers who've known me pretty much almost my whole life, that have been with our family for 27, 28, 29, 30 years. And just people, it goes a long way, but I think what makes us really special with our relationships, because you can know everybody and everybody can know your name, but it's really the integrity, and it's really the being genuine is everything. And I think that's one thing I learned from my parents, especially my dad. He's genuine. The relationships that he has cultivated over the last 3+ decades is genuine, and people truly love him. It makes me so proud of my dad, and it really shows me how to properly cultivate and build the relationships and maintain relationships. But there's so much opportunity, and I think as the next generation, I see the opportunity that's coming, and I think that we're really lined extremely well. We're lined up well here at Perdomo Cigars for the future to do really big things. I truly believe in my heart we haven't scratched the surface, and I know that, but it wouldn't be for those if it wasn't for those relationships that have given us the chance, that have given us the opportunity to be where we are today.
And I don't think we can have a conversation about Perdomo without speaking about your mother and the big role that she plays in the company. Because I know that
Huge
she,
role.
a huge role. I know every trade show, she's like the person. If I can't speak to any of you all because you all are busy with business, I make sure I was like, I have to speak to Miss Perdomo. I have to speak to her, and she's always nice, and she's always talking about you and the grandkids and everything else. But could you tell a little bit of people like what they might not know about your mom? Because I know that she likes to sometimes be in the background, but she's a major player in the company. So
Huge. She's 50% of the reason why we have the company today. She was when my dad had this crazy idea to follow his dream and continue create a business in the cigar industry because of the inspiration that he had from his father, the inspiration he had from his grandfather, both being in the industries in Cuba. And my dad had an incredible job as an air traffic controller, benefits, pension plans, things like that. My dad goes, I want to do this. And I could promise you 99.9% of spouses would probably say absolutely not. But I'm proud that my mom falls in that 0.1% and said, if that's what you want to do, I believe in you. Bet on yourself. And that's what my mom did 34 years ago. And so, yeah, my mom's very special. And she's the rock, the backbone of our family. And she's everything. And but she really, yeah, she's got the toughest job. She's the one who collects the money. And
mm.
so if you're not paying your bills, you're going to get a call from Mama Janine Perdomo. And so a lot of people respect her, but they also don't want to get the phone call from my mother either. So, but
I'm sure she's like, "How are you doing? Now where's this money?"
pretty much. And but overall, we're great. She's done an incredible job of just continuing to work with our customers and help them and make sure that we fulfill their product, but they also pay as well. And she's really created an incredible just structure within our accounts payables and things like that. So, but yeah, she's a huge player. Absolutely, 50%.
Um, Now speaking about your cigars, like I know you were talking about the relationships and how you have to conduct yourself in a certain way to be successful in the business.
Sure.
But there's another part to it all. Is if you all didn't have such good cigars, you wouldn't be where you are right now anyway.
1,000%.
Because I know that
1,000%.
there's with the cigar industry, past, present, there's been very nice people, but their cigars sometimes aren't great. And you hear the retailers say that sometimes. I've heard them say that about, in the past about different brands where they say, oh, this guy's like the super nice guy, but the cigars just don't sell. Well, you
Listen,
all, like, you, you all don't have that problem, thankfully.
it's true. Well, but listen, it's one of those things we've all been there. And, fortunately for me, starting, I had incredible tobaccos, great materials that I'm able to work with, especially my first brand being Perdomo Legacy. My dad, not so much. Starting in the 90s, in the early 90s, you kind of bought whatever was around. So quality, my dad did make great cigars from our inception, but the tobacco might not have been the best. And in those days, we weren't growing our own tobacco, and we were still in Miami and we had our factories in Miami, the factory in Tampa before we even moved to Nicaragua. So my dad was building those relationships, but I think in the back of my mind, my dad's mind, knowing that he was going to expand, eventually move into Nicaragua when Nicaragua was nothing. And in the back of his mind, he really had the mindset of, I'm going to get better, and I'm going to have better tobacco because I'm going to grow my own tobacco. Eventually, I'm going to control everything and be vertically integrated, which was my dad's dream always. And he did it in a very fast time. The property that we're sitting on right now, my dad bought this property in 1997, 1998, and we moved in here around the latter part of 2000, going into 2001. And at the end of the day, it's one of those things when you really look at it, less than 10 years, my dad went from a garage to an 88,000 square foot facility. And that's a heck of a story in itself. And it really doesn't get told a lot. And people really don't do the math. And we really don't like to talk about the math necessarily. But as his son and not coming from my dad, I'm proud of that. So in less than a decade, look what he was able to do. But perseverance is everything. But yes, to your point, you have to have a great product. But you got to build the relationships like we just spoke about. And little by little, my dad just hammered away, was beating the shoe leather, working the road like a madman when I was a kid, working here in our facility in Nicaragua, weeks on end. We used to spend months here in the summer to not only see my grandfather, but also because my dad was trying to build this factory up and growing operations and things like that, just to have pre-industries, multiple facilities, and all these things. And it took a long, long time, but it's something I'm super, super proud of. And but yeah, my dad really worked his tail off, but and those relationships were huge.
Do you find that people sometimes have a misconception about, the family and how that conflicts with the business or how that goes along with the business?
Sure. A lot of people still don't know us, and we're very friendly people. But we're very family oriented, and so we're not always where everybody's at, and sometimes, but we stay in our lane. We do the best we can. Again, we're family people. We spend time with each other. But yeah, I think there could sometimes be misconceptions. My dad's a very honest man, and it's one of those things, and I really respect my dad, but a lot of times my dad's the type of person you got to watch when you ask my dad a question, because if
You will
one
get
is
an answer.
sensitive, you're going to get the answer and you're going to get the truth from him, whether you like it or you don't. But we, unfortunately, I think in this world today, we lack men like my dad who try to sugarcoat stuff. But at the end of the day, my dad's heart's in the right place, and he's helped many people that you'll never hear about. Many manufacturers, especially here in the country of Nicaragua. My dad's helping people today that nobody knows about, trying to help their business, because my dad started really hard. And back in those days, when my dad started, a lot of the old dogs in the industry, since they didn't get the help, they didn't want to help. And
Hmm.
kind of today, I would say the industry's in a better standing today with manufacturing today, and people actually do help a lot more today versus when my dad started. So, it's one of those things where, yeah, there's misconceptions, but there's a lot of stories that are untold. And because it's not about this and doing that and talking about yourself in public, you gotta show it. But I think overall, when you look at our brand and how you started this conversation with the relationships and who we know, people know who we are. We got to do a better job of getting people to know who we are as well too. And we've been doing different things, trying to create a Perdomo podcast, doing things to engage with consumers, but our story is going to be told, and I think history will definitely treat my dad very, very fairly as one of the pioneers, not only here in Nicaragua, but in the cigar industry when you look back in the history books.
Definitely. Um, what has it been like starting this podcast? Because I'm always interested in the manufacturer side. Because I know from my side, people. I tell people it's not as easy as you sometimes think. It's like a full-time job. Sometimes and you're just
You
like
know it.
you're putting it together. So what have you kind of learned about the media side of the business now that you've kind of have experience now with putting together your own podcast?
It's hard, but all good things are hard. This dude, creating this business was really hard on my dad. And but if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? And that's
Hmm.
why there's so few of us. But I think as an industry, and I'm being completely transparent, I think as manufacturers, and looking back, I've had this idea for almost 2 years. I would honestly, and if I had to give ourselves a grade in terms of how we engage with consumers, and listen, forget events and things like that, but in terms of really being able to connect with the consumer, because at the end of the day, the consumer is truly the horsepower behind this whole thing. They're the ones who go to the retail stores. They're the ones who drive retail sales. They're the ones who drive manufacturers to say buy the cigars. And I've always felt that there's been a gap from being able to engage with consumers. And I would honestly give all of us as manufacturers an F, to be honest with you, because I think events, I think going store to store, and when we go to stores, it's during the day, visiting retailers, and not all, but most retail stores, people are working, and you miss a lot of consumers. But with technology today, I really wanted to create something from the makers that
Hmm.
complements all shows in terms of different podcasts and different cigar media, but I wanted to really bring, because I hear so much for so many years. People ask me questions. I go, no, that's not true. You don't do this with a cigar, or no, you don't do this. No, it's not like this. No, we don't dip our cigars in alcohol. No, we don't do this. So it's one of those things where I said, man, I can't physically split myself in 500 pieces, nor can my dad. So with technology and social media and how powerful it is today, let's do this. Let's create a podcast. We spent a tremendous amount of money into our studio. It's actually within our distribution center in Miami Lakes, Florida, and I think it's hard, but it's a lot of fun. I've really had a great time, and I really enjoy the feedback. And that's really what I wanted. I want people to ask questions. I want consumers to reach out to me. And I do the best that I can. My dad does the best that he can to engage with people. When people comment and ask us questions, we comment right back, and we do the best we possibly can within the 24-hour period. And my wife will tell me, "What are you doing? It's 11:30 at night." I'm like, "Well, the guy's asking about humidity and how he should keep his humidification, his humidor, and all this stuff." And I tell her, I go, "These are the people. This is the reason why we have 3 square meals a day and why we have a head over our roof." So, it's something that my dad taught me, and but I have really enjoyed it. I know my dad's really enjoyed it, but also too, I think it's a bonus that I get to spend more time with my dad. We work together, and we pre-record all of our episodes because it's really because of travel. Outside of the fact that anything can happen when you're live, uh,
Yes,
but
definitely.
which is a huge thing. But it's one of those things. We're working together. We go in our conference room, and him and we're studying. Even though we know all this, we want to be as professional as possible because we want to make sure that when the consumer hears us and we talk about primings and we talk about fermentation and things like that, it can go over a lot of people's heads. So I got to try to make it as simple as possible because I want our consumers to know what we do as a company and how we ferment tobacco, how we cure tobacco, how we grow tobacco, how we make cigars. that's not the way people make cigars. It's the way we make cigars. So I want people to be familiar with how we do things, but also too for their education. I think more than anything, with the podcast, as much as we're trying to, of course, teach people about Perdomo cigars, we really want to be a provider of cigar education in general and help people as much as possible.
It always gets me when those of us on this side of the industry, not just consumers, but think that people know everything. Like we don't like, I've heard manufacturers and retailers sometimes say like, oh, we don't need any more videos about, how to light a cigar or stuff like that. And sometimes you do because, some people when they're first getting into the lifestyle, it's like, I remember when I first got into it, I mean, I didn't know anything. So, learning how to light it, learning how to hold it, learning, what to do when you're in a cigar lounge. All that stuff has to be talked about, and yet we don't. We feel like, oh, everybody already knows that already. And it's like,
No,
and then you're losing out. So I think it's great what you all are doing.
thank
Is
you.
talking about the basics and engaging with the consumers and being at least that source because to me, like that makes that connection. So as they're sitting there watching the podcast and they get to know you all and they hear this information from you all, it gives them even more incentive to go out and find a Perdomo cigar, to try it and to main, to engage with you all in a way that they can sit there and watch your podcast and also smoke something that you all have made.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. And it's the truth. And I think one of the greatest things about the podcast so far, because, we've had thousands and thousands of comments, on perdomopodcast.com. We've had over 6,000 downloads already, which has
Mm.
been fantastic.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things, and we've only been doing this for a little over 2 months now, but one of the greatest things and one of the greatest compliments, and when you read the comments, especially on YouTube, is I love seeing the interaction between father and son. And I think when you look at cigar smokers, and I could be conservative here in my figures, but I would say at least 90% of people who smoke cigars smoke because of their father or smoke because of their grandfather, and there's this connection. And so I think when you look at how we've been able to connect between father and son, and I'm proud to say that today, I would say my dad and I, we're working our way, and I think we are the leading father and son team in the premium cigar industry today, especially for family company. And
Mhm.
it's something that we're going to continue to push because that's who we are today. And, I think it's one of those connections that people have with us, and including a brand like Perdomo Legacy, that is between father and son. So, I think people feel it and they see how genuine, not only we are as human beings, but our brand. There's integrity behind it outside of the quality, the tradition, really the excellence of our company. So I think there's a lot of different variables, a lot of different things.
And I think that's a good segue into talking about this latest release. Like I think it debuted. I think you talked about it a little bit before the trade show, and I
Yes.
know that you've been working on it. So tell us a little bit more about Perdomo Legacy, Father and Son.
Perdomo Legacy Father and Son is a brand that my dad and I have been working on for years. And so it was one of those brands where I said, Dad, I'm coming out with a cigar in honor of you. And I kind of hijacked this tobacco, this proprietary Nicaraguan shade grown tobacco that's a Cuban Cameroon seed that we grow under shade here in Esteli. And I don't know, but I kind of feel it's a little bit messed up because I'm using this tobacco before you, and you and our geneticists are the one who developed it. So, and I'm kind of taking this, but you got to create a blend. And I think our consumers, after trying, you know, the cigar that I make with a Nicaraguan shade grown wrapper, I would venture to say that they want to know what would Nick's cigar taste like with a Nicaraguan shade grown wrapper if he made a blend. And so I said I wanted to keep it under the Legacy brand, but this is a project between father and son. And that's when I said Perdomo Legacy, father and son. And so it was one of those things that just worked out really harmoniously. And so I said, okay, Dad, let's make it fun. Let's make it a competition. Your blend versus my blend. In the family type of thing. We'll make it fun. I think we can get consumers who will love the concept. Retailers will love the concept. Love to do it. Let's do. I'll do the Maduro, and you do the Nicaraguan Shaker, and we created these incredible blends. And then I said, man, you know, Dad, over 79% of all cigars that are exported and come into the United States have one thing in common. They have a Connecticut wrapper. I really don't want to leave a Connecticut smoker out who really loves Connecticut wrapped cigars, and they're not necessarily more into the darker color type of cigars. And I said, why don't you make the Connecticut? My dad told me, no, we're going to work on it together. And so that was a lot of fun. And so that's where the collaboration part comes in. And, you know, it's really a collaborative brand, but it's really very unique. We created a size, and I told my dad, I go, Dad, you know, we have to do something in terms of we created these incredible blends. Let's do something and create a size. And literally, we were here in this office, pen and a paper. And I said, where can we create performance, right? When you look at a cigar, and you look, for example, a torpedo, you cut a torpedo properly, you might be pulling a torpedo from a 54 ring gauge, but you're pulling the cigar out of a 44 or 46 from where you cut the cigar, right? So you got a little bit more of concentration of flavors. And I said, what if we created the size that's a parallel cigar, but has three different points? Basically, you ignite the cigar at a 52 ring gauge. As the smoke travels up, you have expansion of flavor that goes into a 60 in the body of the cigar, but then you're pulling the cigar from a 48 ring gauge. And it's a parallel cigar. It's a rounded head and everything. There's no torpedo to it. And so, but really you have flavor expansion through flavor concentration. And so we went to our wood mold maker, our mold maker here in Esteli, and we created some molds. And I said, man, we should press these cigars so it looks so elegant and also a nice mouthfeel too. So it even makes it feel a little bit smaller because our lips run from east to west, so it's linear. And so we did it, and we lit up the cigars, and we tasted them like, wow, this size is just so different. It's so special. I feel like I'm smoking a smaller cigar, but I feel like I'm holding a bigger cigar at the same time. So I'm getting full tobacco. I'm getting all those secos, all those ligeros, those viso tobaccos. I don't have to put anything. I'm getting the entire essence of what the cigar should be. And so we showed the cigar at PCA this year in New Orleans. And then we also we showed the cigar, but we gave samples. I had people tell me, and I mean at least 10 retailers who lit the cigar and left, came back after they placed their orders and said, this is one of, if not the greatest cigar I've ever smoked in my life. And I'm going like this, you know. I'm like, keep smoking it. Not because I doubt myself, but
Right.
I'm like, the compliment is it's so strong. I just kind of, you know, I'm like, thank you. But, you know, that's a very big compliment, especially from retailers who've been in the industry 20, 30, 40 plus years. What a big deal. And so in my head, because of who I am, and I try to be as humble as possible, I'm like, my goodness, I'm just a 30, 33, 34-year-old guy, even though I have a lot of experience. But, you know, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So the reception's been great. We had a soft launch in New Hampshire, Two Guys Smoke Shop. The cigar was extremely well received. And one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to, especially for the first year, we wanted to come out with a 50 count cabinet chest. And when I was doing research, and this is the first time that Perdomo Cigars has done a limited edition cigar since 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was looking at and researching where most limited edition cigars are 10, 20 count boxes, and let's say they come out once a year, that means that you'd have only 10 to 20 cigars to smoke in a year. To me, it's kind of not fair. So I said, man, you know, there's 48 Saturdays in the year. You know, if I give you 50, you can smoke a cigar every Saturday for the rest of the year. So that's why I did a 50 count box, because it only comes out once a year. And at the end of the day, you could smoke a cigar every Saturday pretty much the rest of the year if you have enough discipline. But it's one of those things. That's why you only get it once a year. Why not have 50 cigars? It's 2 boxes of cigars. In reality, to a regular seasoned smoker, 2 boxes of cigars is nothing.
For you and the Perdomo family, like what makes the cigar, or what will make the cigar success? Like, what are you all basing it on? Is it ratings? Is it cigar of the year recognition? Like, what's the scale that you all use?
The scale I love to use is the consumer satisfaction. consumers telling us how much they love the cigars. And that's truly, in all honesty, there's no doubt I'd love to have a great rating. There's no doubt that I would love to have all the accolades that I can. But the
Hmm.
truth of the matter is the driver behind everything and what's important is the consumer. And to me, that's everything. Why we're doing the Perdomo podcast is because the consumer. It's because I want to continue to. I want them to be. They are my voice, and they are the voice for the entire industry. And unfortunately, they get overlooked many times, and so or not appreciated enough. And at least for our company and our family, those days are long gone. And you know, but I think that's the biggest thing. As long as our consumers are happy and naturally the brand sells, that's all that matters.
I
And
think
we're
what
sold out, and we haven't even sold the cigar yet.
and that's always a good thing to
It
be able to
is.
say you don't have to worry. It takes a little bit of the pressure off. I was
Sure.
going to say that I think one of the things that you all do that I don't see a lot of the cigar companies doing is I know you feel like you should do more with the consumer, but I feel like you do a lot with the consumer and you give them a voice and a way to contact you all
Thank
and
you.
to engage with you all. Like I know there's a Facebook group, I'm part of it, the Perdomo Army group that, when y'all are releasing something new or it's just people posting pictures of, a Perdomo thing, there might be a problem with the cigar. I see you all responding to that. You don't see that a lot in this industry, and it kind of shows you a good way of like handling social media. It's not just posting a picture of a cigar and calling it a day, but using it to really be social and engage with people. So I do think you all do like a really good job getting that feedback and at least giving consumers a way to get in touch with you all.
Thank you. Yeah, and people always ask me who runs your social media, and I always say it's my dad, it's my mom, and it's myself. That's really eh, I'm one of three of people who run the social media in Perdomo Cigars, and it happens to be three Perdomos, and so that's something we're never going to be too big. I'll never be too big. I don't care how old I am, or I can speak on behalf of my dad, my mom, Arthur Kemper, Nelson Cuba, our entire team. We're never going to be too big for our consumers, and we're never going to be too big to ask questions ever or answer questions to our consumers.
So this is one of those Sophie's Choice type questions, but if something happened and there was only one Perdomo cigar left or one cigar line left, which line, in your opinion, does it have to be that you want to be left with, to rebuild?
To rebuild, if I had to fix the brand,
If you had to, if all the other lines were disappeared for some reason, a Thanos snap or something like that, and you were left with just one line, like what do you hope that surviving line would be?
well, I mean, it would have to be Perdomo Reserve Champagne. That's the cigar that brought us to the dance. That's our number one selling brand. It's one of the biggest selling Connecticut wrap cigars in the world today. I mean, personally, for me, Perdomo Legacy, because it's a cigar that I made in honor of my dad, and it is our flagship. So that's something. Yeah, I'm kind of torn between those two, but I would have to probably say Perdomo Reserve Champagne because that's the cigar that really took us to the dance.
Now, you being of a different generation than your father, what are you finding like the younger adult smokers, like what are they looking for in terms of their premium cigars today? Because I have this question and we talk about it on deep cuts a lot. Like the older audience, sometimes they know what they like, they stick to it, they don't deviate sometimes from what they like, but the younger
Sure.
ones are good at experimenting with different brands, but then they don't stick to that one brand. They're just looking for something new. So what are you finding? What's your findings with these different competing groups in the cigar industry?
Sure. I think the biggest thing, especially with if you take from in reality, call it the 25 to 54 segment, I think of course, they're looking for flavor and proper construction, combustibility, things like that. But I also think more than ever, I think the younger consumers, I think they're looking for education. I think they're looking to connect. And that not necessarily personally connect with me, for example, but maybe let's say they know who I am, and they can connect this to this, or with my dad, for example. I think that's what people are looking for. I think people, and especially Americans, everybody likes to buy from a mom and pop. They
Mhm.
want to know the families. They want to know who they are. They want to support family business. And I think what's great about us, because we're so tech savvy in terms of, with social media and just engagement with consumers, I think that's where we've started hitting really a stride over the years, especially when my dad first started the YouTube channel back during COVID, the COVID era, where we really started getting this thing going. But I think more than anything, outside of course the obvious, the performance of a cigar, flavor, construction, aroma, things like that, I think people are looking to find, the younger smokers are looking to find, who is Perdomo? Who are they? That's who they are. Oh, they're educating. I want to learn more. You know what? That's my brand. That's one of my brands. But or it could be that is my brand because I feel the connection. I think that's really the biggest thing, especially with social media and just everybody wants to know who everybody is, and have that connection to the brand.
Yeah, it's definitely you see with advertising and marketing, like you said, with younger people, younger adults, and especially, they are asking questions more so than ever about the people behind the brands and if they align with their beliefs. If
Sure.
like how are they doing things? So that's a good point that you've made about just what they're looking for. Like when in terms of education, though, how does the industry make, because I hear education all the time, like education is important. How do we make it entertaining, or does it need to be entertaining? Because I say that because sometimes it's like some people take the education thing, they really run with it, and it feels kind of like dragging, and then it's like almost like you're back in school. So,
Right.
and nobody wants to feel like that because cigars to me are like, unless it's someone like you or I, it's not their all day thing. So it's like they come home from work or they come home from whatever. It's on the weekend. They're enjoying the cigar. They want to learn a little bit more, but they don't want to make it feel like a textbook and just dragging on. How do we make education appealing to today's cigar consumer?
Well, I think you have to have the direction, right? What are you educating on, right? So, from the simplest thing to the most complex things, I think the biggest thing for us is when we try to educate. I think because we do this every day, and whether we're here in our factories, our farms, or whether we're on the road visiting retailers and consumers, I think the biggest thing is that we're so well prepared, and if you really know your stuff, and I have a conversation with you about, for example, fermentation. You want to learn more about fermentation, and I give you not only just the main points to keep it short and simple, but if I give you the main points with just enough description, right, to show you part of the technicality of it, it's one of those things. It's a feel game, but there's not. You need the repetition. This is a very very repetitive thing. You having 6 seasons, for example, you see it more than anybody. The game cigar media, especially from what I'm learning, is in terms of the education side, is if you you'll be as successful as consistent as you are. If you're very consistent and you're always showing face and you have great content and you're explaining and you're educating, and little by little you can repeat things and you can talk about certain things every single time, because I can't just do one segment, for example, on curing tobacco and then expect the consumer knows everything about curing tobacco. Maybe in a couple months I'll talk about curing tobacco again. And a couple months after that I'll talk about it. So I always try to give little pieces to keep them engaged, but also too, I do the best I can to be as prepared as possible. Even though I know what I'm talking about, I have to be organized in my thoughts so that I properly relay the information as well as my dad. So that's why we study so much before we do these podcasts, because we want to keep it as technical as possible, but also as simple as possible for the retention. But we also know that I have to repeat. So, for example, when you go back to talking about cutting and lighting a cigar, it should be done all the time. It should be shown all the time, because not everybody knows it. You know what? Thank God, we have so many new consumers coming into the game, and new consumers who are trying to smoke cigars, who are getting into the hobby. maybe because they saw their dad or their grandfather, and it's a generational thing. So yeah, you have to be consistent. And I think consistency is the game, and in terms of that, and having the proper content, and not just having an episode just to have an episode. It's better just having quality over quantity too, but being consistent.
Definitely. I think about, because I know I've spoken to your father numerous times. Very patriotic uh, attitude. So America 250. So I'm thinking about Perdomo 250. Like, what do you want the company to, have accomplished 50 years from now, or even, I mean, like, where do you see? You said that you feel like you're just scratching the surface. So
Yes.
what does the future Perdomo look like?
I think the future of Perdomo looks really great. We have expanded. For example, 2026 was the first year in 25 years since 2001 that we took a break from doing the Perdomo factory tours, which we're very well known for. And the reason for that is because of expansion. We expanded our factory another 6,000 square feet. We're adding a new 100,000 square foot facility on the compound. We just purchased 2 new farms that we're gonna have growing, and so we've been doing a lot of preparation. So expansion's everything, but I'd love to see in the next 50 years our family, whether and hopefully my children will want to be in the business as well, and continuing being a family run company, and being a Nicaraguan based company, but making the best cigars in the world. That's all I care about. I want to be the best. I want to be. There's no question. I'd love to be the biggest, but I want to be the best, and that's what drives me. And so, I'm a very competitive person. That's just something that my dad instilled within me. And so, I believe today that we are the best cigar makers in the world. I think we have some of the greatest materials and greatest tobaccos in the world today. And so that's one of the things that I just hope in 50 years from now that we continue to have the mindset of being grateful for everything we have, but never being content, always striving to do more, not only just for our family, but truly for the consumer and the retailer, so that this faith that we've earned and trust that they've given us, really the trust is the biggest thing. I'm never going to be complacent because of them, because they've brought me to the dance, the consumer, the retailer. And so that's one of the things that my dad's instilled within me. But personally, it's a drive that I have to continue to push forward, to expand, to make a tremendous amount of cigars, and to be able to deliver more cigars and have the capability to produce more brands in the future, to produce more blends. We're working on crazy hybrid seeds right now, and working on different type of wrapper tobaccos. We have so much stuff in the works today, and it's very, very exciting for the future. But I think my dad's done a really great job of setting it up for those 50 years that you're describing. So that's something that we're pushing really hard to do.
And I really appreciate from Perdomo that you all really, like, when you release something, you've, like you said, you spent the time to really develop it. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen a lot with other companies, but it's when you get a Perdomo release, it feels like a bigger deal because you're not getting a Perdomo release like 6 times a year or every other month. You're getting one like maybe once a year, if that. And even on the years where you don't get a big release, it's like you have so much you could choose from you all, that I feel like there's no way that people have to smoke through every single Perdomo line and size and all that's out there. So I think that approach that you all take to releasing things slowly and taking the time to really develop it kind of speaks to that 50-year vision.
I appreciate it. It's all about, of course, consistency, but it's also about the integrity within your brands. You have to protect your brands. You have to make sure that your brands are all planted. The roots of your brands are planted within the shelves of retail stores across the country. Brands, for example, like 10th anniversary, Perdomo 20th anniversary, Perdomo Habano, brands like Lot 23. These are brands that have been out for over 2 decades. And I think we've earned the right to have those brands and to come out with new brands, like, for example, 12-year Double H Vintage, Perdomo 30th Anniversary, and even Perdomo Legacy. And keeping those brands, and now having those brands within the last couple of years that we've released them, it's due to the fact that we've had the discipline to focus. The easy way is to create new brands, put a beautiful band on and make a beautiful box and put cigars in the box and sell it. This is new, 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 new. It's not about new. It's about, and the truth of the matter is there's no brand in the entire cigar industry that's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola. We've had Perdomo Champagne, one of the top selling Connecticut wrap cigars in the world. And there's people who have been smoking cigars for 10, 15, 20, 30 years who have never tried a Perdomo Reserve Champagne, love smoking Perdomo Connecticut, or love smoking Connecticut's, and even Perdomo, but just have never tried a champagne. That's really the opportunity. It's the mindset. And so you have to have the discipline. And that's really everything. And that discipline leads to success, and that discipline leads to the opportunities to be able to get creative. I can tell you that my dad and I, we are cigar geeks. We are tobacco geeks. We love to work on tobacco. We love to work with different type of tobaccos that we have. We have so many tobacco, so much storage of tobacco, of certain tobaccos that we've never even used before. We have years of storage of well-aged Nicaraguan tobaccos that we've never even used in any of our cigars that you've ever smoked. But again, it's discipline. And it's the discipline of holding your inventory, making sure your inventory is properly aged, but also too making sure that the brands that you've invested in, that your customers smoke every day, that those brands continue to have those deep roots set in, so that when you do have a new brand, it doesn't hurt that brand that you've been working on for so many years.
Definitely. At this point in the show, I like to kind of wrap up this part of the interview with two basic questions that we ask every guest. The first of those questions is, do you have a philosophy that you like to live or work by?
Yes. Do the right thing and be honest. Be honest, do the right thing amongst everyone, treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and good things will come to you.
And I want you to, the last question is kind of a play on the first question I actually asked you, which is, I want you to finish the sentence. Nicholas Perdomo III is
A family man and a working man.
great. I think that, like, when I think of Perdomo, I think of those two things with with you and your father. So it makes perfect sense that that will be your response.
Thank you. Yeah, if I'm not working, I'm with my family. And if I'm not with my family, I'm working. Those are my two things. I don't play golf. I'd love to play golf. It's just not the time for me in my life right now, because I have to give that time to my family, my two beautiful children, my wonderful wife. And if when I'm not with them, I'm working my tail off for them.
Oh, great. Well, I want to thank you for coming on today. And we have a couple more things to film before we're done. But for those people who are just watching this, could you tell them what, they may be just listening and not watching, but could you tell them like what website to go to for the main website, and also the podcast, and also what social media they need to follow in order to keep up with you and everything Perdomo related?
Sure. Yeah. Visit if you want to see, and you want to look at any of our brands. We have incredible, different pages that you could see all of our beautiful Perdomo cigar brands. Also, if you need to locate retail stores near you, check out PerdomoCigars.com. Also, if you want to listen to our Perdomo podcast, there's also a link that shows you our visual YouTube. Please visit us at PerdomoPodcast.com and check out any of our Perdomo Cigars Instagram, Facebook pages, and also our personal pages. I'm Nicholas Perdomo on Instagram and also on Facebook, Nicholas Perdomo III. My dad, Nick Perdomo, my mom, Janine Perdomo. And please connect with us. We'd love to speak with you. If you have any questions on Perdomo cigars or tobacco in general, any of those different platforms, we'd love to connect with you. We're grateful for you as a consumer, even our retail partners. We're very grateful here to talk and help with any type of questions, especially with cigar education and so forth. So we're very grateful.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on today. Like I said, I was really excited. You're quick to respond, and I was like, thank goodness. Some people in the industry are really quick to respond, and you're definitely one of them. But I'm really glad to have you on. Like I said, we're big fans of your parents, especially, and just the Perdomo, what Perdomo stands for, and also what it's accomplished. And it was definitely a fanboy moment to have you on today, just to kind of talk about all things Perdomo.
Thank you so much, Antoine. Antoine, thank you so much also for the opportunity to be on Deep Cuts Live. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks so much for all your support too, and the love that you have for our family.
Yes, of course. Like I said, sit tight. We got a couple more things to film, but for those of you watching or listening, thank you for tuning in today. On whatever social media you're on, be sure you hit that like or follow button. Leave a rating on any of the podcasting apps. And if you missed any of this episode or you want to see any of the other past episodes we've done, you can do so at youtube.com/deepcutslive. And until next time.